30 years ago, mentioning Hyundai was almost synonymous with an unknown name from South Korea, associated with cheap cars, unattractive designs, and low durability. In fact, Hyundai was often the subject of ridicule, with some even joking that the only way to double the value of a Hyundai was to fill its gas tank. However, today, Hyundai has undergone a remarkable transformation and has emerged as one of the top car brands in the world, surpassing even iconic names like Ford, Honda, and General Motors. It now confidently holds the third position in the global automotive market. This extraordinary rise is tied to the incredible life story of the man behind it, Chung Ju-yung, who went from humble beginnings to creating a business empire. Born in 1915 in a small rural village in North Korea, Chung grew up under the harsh rule of the Japanese Empire. His family was impoverished, working tirelessly on the farm just to get by. Despite these struggles, Chung dreamed of becoming a teacher. But as the eldest of 7 children, he had no choice but to abandon his studies at the age of 14 to help his family. From sunrise to sunset, young Chung worked in the fields, cared for livestock, and even traveled from village to village selling firewood. Even though he worked non-stop, the family barely scraped by. A bad harvest could send them into chronic poverty, and young Chung was constantly haunted by the fear that he would never escape this life. Would he always be stuck as a farmer, working in the fields year after year, with no hope of ever filling his stomach or changing his fate? These questions plagued him as he grew older, pushing him to make a drastic decision. At the age of 16, Chung decided to run away from home and seek a better life. Along with a friend, he traveled miles to Goan, which is now part of North Korea. There, he found work as a construction laborer. Although the pay was low, Chung felt a sense of freedom and pride in being able to support himself. Life in Goan was far better than the harsh conditions at home. However, his joy was short-lived. Just 2 months later, his father found him and brought him back to the village. But something had changed. Chung had experienced freedom, and he could not go back to his former life. He ran away again, twice more, to Seoul, the capital of South Korea. But each time his father tracked him down and forced him to return. His father tried to hold him back with words like, "You're just a peasant boy, barely educated. How can someone like you ever succeed?" But despite the discouragement, Chung refused to accept a life of poverty and hardship. He saw firsthand the devastation caused by crop failures and famine in his village, and this fueled his determination to change his destiny. Thus, at the age of 20, Chung made a bold decision: to leave his home for the final time. This was the beginning of his extraordinary journey. He faced many trials and failures, but nothing could stop him from pursuing a better life. His first steps were humble, taking on the toughest jobs like working in construction or as a laborer in a factory. But his relentless work ethic and honesty soon earned him recognition. His breakthrough came when he was hired at a candy store. Despite the tough conditions, riding a bike in all kinds of weather to deliver goods, he was able to build a stable life. His dedication impressed the store's owner, and after just 6 months, he was promoted to accountant, a significant step forward in his career. This is just the beginning of Chung Ju-young's incredible journey, one that led him to eventually create Hyundai, a brand that today stands as a testament to his unyielding determination and vision. At just 22 years old, Chung Ju-yung was entrusted with the management of a candy store when the owner fell ill, a true testament to the trust and respect he had earned. He renamed the store Kyungin Rice Store and implemented a business strategy focused on affordable prices and high-quality products, which quickly attracted a large customer base. Under his leadership, the store became one of the top rice suppliers in the region. Just as his business was thriving, disaster struck. The Japanese government imposed a rice distribution system that forced many rice businesses, including Chung's, to shut down. With no other options, Chung was forced to return to his village, leaving behind all the hard work he had put into building the store. But despite the setback, his resilience would not allow him to give up. In 1940, Chung returned to Seoul, determined to start anew. He decided to venture into the automobile repair industry, a sector less affected by Japanese control. He used his savings to buy a used car and established the Sauvage garage, marking the beginning of a new difficult journey. Thanks to his affordable pricing, dedication to quality service, and the lucky hiring of a talented mechanic, his garage quickly gained popularity, and his reputation grew. As business boomed, Chung had to hire more mechanics to meet the growing demand. But just as things were looking up, another disaster hit. A fire destroyed his entire garage, and Chung found himself in debt with nothing left. But he didn't give up. He borrowed money, reopened his garage in a more remote area, and with his experience and established reputation, managed to recover and even expand the business. Within no time, he had over 70 employees. Just as he was planning for further growth, the outbreak of World War II in 1942 brought everything to a halt. The Japanese government commandeered his garage, turning it into a steel factory for the war effort. Amid the chaos, Chung was forced to leave once again, returning to his hometown, heartbroken but still determined. Despite the setbacks, Chung had managed to save $50,000 and was already planning his next business venture, a venture that would soon change not only his life, but also the future of South Korea. Before we dive into that, we'd like to thank you for supporting our channel. If you enjoy these success stories and want to hear more lessons from famous books, you can download the SuccessfulPerson app. It gives you access to over 2,000 book summaries across various topics such as business, leadership, healing, marketing, and persuasion, saving you tons of time. We appreciate your time and support. Now, let's get back to the story. After Korea regained independence from Japanese rule following World War II in 1946, Chung Ju-yung decided to rebuild his automobile service business. He named it Hyundai Motor Service Center, where Hyundai in Korean means modern or contemporary. His business initially focused on repairing Japanese trucks and U.S. military vehicles. The business grew rapidly, and by the end of the year, his staff had expanded from 30 to 80 employees. Chung had once again achieved success, this time without the interference of the former Japanese authorities. In the years that followed, Hyundai would go on to transform the automotive industry in South Korea, laying the foundation for the global automotive empire it is today. When Chung Ju-yung saw a construction company securing contracts worth up to $10 million each, he was deeply impressed by the profit potential in the construction industry. The stark contrast in the value of these contracts pushed him to establish Hyundai Construction in 1947. The early days of Hyundai Construction were far from easy. The company struggled to stay afloat, taking on small projects like building barracks and auxiliary buildings for the U.S. military and repairing various structures. It wasn't until 1950 that the company began to show significant progress. However, the outbreak of the Korean War in 1950 forced Chung to abandon everything and flee to Busan, losing all his assets. He and his brother struggled to make ends meet, working for publishing houses and delivering newspapers to soldiers on the front lines. Amid the fear and uncertainty, the news of potential support from the United Nations became a flicker of hope for the people. One day, Chung came across a recruitment ad by the U.S. Army looking for local construction specialists. Seeing it as a golden opportunity, he applied, and soon after, he began working on projects like constructing military barracks for the U.S. Army. Chung's ability to forge strong relationships with the U.S. military led to larger projects like housing for U.S. personnel and even building residences for visiting American presidents. As a result, his company quickly became the go-to choice for U.S. military contracts in South Korea. After the war, Chung leveraged the economic aid provided by the U.S. to help rebuild South Korea's infrastructure, giving local businesses an opportunity to bid on and win major government projects. In 1953, Chung boldly entered a bidding war for the Goan Bridge project, the largest construction project in Korea at the time. However, the project became a hard lesson in his career. Due to his lack of experience, outdated equipment, and insufficient attention to safety protocols, the project faced delays, frequent accidents, and rising inflation. The fixed payments became increasingly difficult to meet, and Hyundai Construction ran out of funds. Chung even had to sell his house to pay the workers. Despite these challenges, the family was determined to finish the project, and they did, though it left them in massive debt and the company facing severe losses. Despite being criticized by competitors and the media for his mismanagement, Chung was unwavering. He made a promise to himself: Not only would he build a successful company, but he would also create the largest company in Korea. He refused to give up and viewed this failure as a stepping stone in his journey to success. Ironically, despite its financial disaster, the Goan Bridge project turned out to be a key turning point for Hyundai. Completing the project, despite the odds, earned the company significant credibility and trust from the government, allowing them to access funds and expand their operations. From this experience, Chung learned the importance of investing in modern equipment. With his solid relationship with the US military, he was able to procure advanced machinery, giving Hyundai a crucial edge over competitors. This access to state-of-the-art equipment helped Hyundai offer competitive pricing, which led to winning contracts for highway construction, bridges, dams, and other major infrastructure projects across South Korea. Hyundai quickly became one of the country's fastest-growing companies. But Chung wasn't content with dominating the local market. He had his sights set on international expansion, aiming to compete with the world's largest construction conglomerates. By the late 1960s, Hyundai had secured several multi-billion-dollar projects, such as the industrial port in Saudi Arabia and shipbuilding facilities in Bahrain. In just 2 decades, Hyundai transformed from a business on the verge of bankruptcy to a global conglomerate. Chung's dream of building the largest company in South Korea was now a reality. In 1960, the rapid growth of Hyundai and other Korean conglomerates was facilitated by strong government support. The government provided financial incentives, loan guarantees, and tax breaks to help these conglomerates diversify and expand. This played a critical role in propelling South Korea's economic development, turning it into an economic powerhouse. While the government support was a key factor, it's important to recognize that Chung's tireless work ethic, unyielding passion, and his ability to constantly learn were what made Hyundai's success possible. Not only did Hyundai excel in construction, but it also diversified into shipbuilding, retail, electronics, and finance. Yet Chung's passion for the automobile industry, a sector he had previously helped create but lost during the war, remained a burning desire. In the 1960s, the South Korean government implemented policies that restricted foreign automakers and required them to collaborate with local companies. This initiative aimed to improve local technology and build up the domestic auto supply chain for South Korea's nascent automobile industry. Seizing the opportunity, Chung Ju-yung returned to the automobile sector. In 1967, he founded Hyundai Motor Company and signed a licensing agreement with Ford Motor Company to produce vehicles under the Hyundai brand. He quickly built a massive plant in Ulsan, and within just 6 months, the factory produced the first ever Hyundai-branded car, the Hyundai Cortina. However, despite being based on the Ford Cortina, a popular car in the UK, the Cortina did not adapt well to the rougher and more uneven roads of South Korea at the time. As a result, the car became a subject of ridicule and earned the nickname, the car that should be discarded. Sales plummeted, and the company faced a crisis when a flood in 1969 severely damaged the plant, destroying vital machinery and parts. Rumors about Hyundai selling flood-damaged cars only worsened the situation, pushing the company to the brink of bankruptcy. But, as always, Chung was determined not to give up. Even in the face of adversity, he remained focused on his ultimate goal: to build Hyundai into a global force, starting with a strong foothold in South Korea's automotive industry. The journey was far from over, but with his unrelenting drive and leadership, Chung Ju-yung was preparing to lead Hyundai out of its darkest days and into its future as a global automobile giant. Despite facing countless difficulties, Chung Ju-yung remained resolute in his determination. Despite being advised to give up, he firmly stated, "I will never take down a Hyundai sign. No matter how difficult it gets, I will make it work. Once I start something, I will follow through to the end." With his persistent spirit and unshakable will, Chung continued to keep the car production going in the following years. As the country's transportation infrastructure gradually improved, the sales of the Cortina began to rise. Hyundai didn't just continue producing Ford models, but also expanded the size of its factory in Ulsan. However, the partnership with Ford started to show cracks. Ford refused to allow Hyundai to distribute the Cortina internationally, citing that their agreement was only limited to South Korea. Moreover, Ford also refused to share profits fairly, believing that Hyundai was just a cheap manufacturing factory. Realizing this, Chung firmly declared, "I will not let this happen." In 1974, he officially terminated the contract with Ford and decided to develop his own car model. This was a historic turning point, marking the beginning of a new era for the South Korean automobile industry. Hyundai Pony was born. Hyundai collaborated with Mitsubishi to use their engine and rear axle and hired talented engineers from Europe to design the car. The Hyundai Pony quickly became the first mass-produced car to succeed in South Korea, capturing 40% of the market share. After success in the domestic market, Chung boldly launched Pony internationally and achieved significant success, especially in Canada. However, Hyundai's journey was far from easy. One major obstacle Hyundai faced was the difficulty of penetrating the US market, the largest automobile market in the world at the time, due to the car not meeting the strict emission standards. However, Hyundai did not give up. In 1985, they launched the Hyundai XL, which met all the stringent US emission standards and was priced at only $4,900, about half the price of an average new car at that time. The XL quickly became a sensation in the market. In its first year, it sold 168,000 units in the US and reached 1 million units worldwide. This was a major breakthrough, not only for Hyundai, but also for the South Korean automotive industry, placing Hyundai on the global map. However, this success was not as perfect as hoped. Despite impressive initial sales, Hyundai continued to face major challenges regarding the quality and reliability of its products. The perception of cheap Korean cars with few features and prone to breaking down clung to Hyundai, causing sales to plummet over time. The brand became the subject of mockery, even earning negative nicknames. Recognizing this issue, Chung Ju-yung and his team worked tirelessly to improve product quality. They focused on hiring talent and heavily invested in research and development of their own engines and car parts. The 1990s saw the release of several new models like the Accent, Sonata, and Elantra. Although initially struggling to convince consumers, these models gradually gained acceptance thanks to Hyundai's continuous feature updates and quality improvements. In 1998, Hyundai acquired Kia Motors, marking an important milestone for the South Korean automobile industry. This merger allowed Hyundai and Kia to invest more heavily and improve product quality and manufacturing processes. These efforts were soon rewarded. By 2004, Hyundai had matched Honda in terms of quality, just behind Toyota. However, their past was still a burden, and Hyundai needed a major push to completely change public perception. Hyundai made a bold move by announcing a 10-year, 100,000-mile warranty for all cars sold in the US. This policy reinforced customers' confidence in the quality of Hyundai's products, helping sales to skyrocket and establishing Hyundai as one of the top automobile brands of the 21st century. Chung Ju-yung spent his later years in philanthropy, engaged in politics, and working to promote reunification between North and South Korea. He passed away in 2001, leaving Hyundai for his sons to take over. The story of Hyundai is a powerful reminder that failure is a more valuable lesson than success. Chung Ju-yung once shared, "It is failure, not success, that teaches us priceless lessons. There's no need to dwell on our successes. Instead, we should remember our losses and failures, because those who forget their failures will fail again and again." Today, Hyundai Motor Group has surpassed General Motors to become the third largest car manufacturer in the world, only behind Toyota and Volkswagen Group. Hyundai is also a leader in the electric vehicle market. In its 10-year vision, Hyundai has announced plans to invest 109.44 trillion won, about $85.1 billion USD by 2032, with 35.8 trillion won dedicated to electrification. Their goal is to achieve 2 million electric vehicle sales by 2030 and to be among the top 30 electric vehicle manufacturers globally. This is the extraordinary journey of a poor boy from the mountains of South Korea who built one of the most powerful business empires in the world.